Hi there, and welcome to this very special episode of Fantasy for the Ages, a show where father and son and some other people sit down and talk about fantasy books. I'm the son of that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. And am I the only one who hears an echo in my ears?
I hear an echo.
I hear an echo and I hear a dog.
Yeah,
now,
I've
the
got a
dog we
dog.
understand. The dog's fine. That's Rolly. Let's see if we can figure out where that echo's coming from. Let's see. Nope, still there. Hello. Hello. Maybe it'll get better over time.
It's okay, as sometimes happens.
Carrie hears an echo in the YouTube too.
That can be difficult, but we will figure it out.
Yeah. Well, everybody kind of experiment with what their audio stuff is as we go. So we'll see if the echo goes away when somebody pushes one button somewhere at some point. Okay. Well, Zach, we don't often have echoes, and it just went away. So somebody just did something right. We don't have echoes because it's usually just you and I.
Yeah.
This is kind of fun. We have other people with us today.
My face is so much smaller for those who can see us.
Yes, you have a small face. Okay, all right,
It's
that works
true.
for me. Yeah.
I think it's slimming on you.
Oh, because I have a small face now too.
Yeah.
I could use a smaller face. So we need to have guests more often.
Apparently.
Yes.
Anyways, how you doing, Dad?
I'm doing fine. It's a great time to get together, to have some fun talking about the journey so far. We just finished The Shadow Rising. We're going to have fun talking about this book and anything up till this point. Great time to remind anybody who's with us here today in the live stream and all, we're not going to talk past it. At least we're going to try not talk past The Shadow Rising. We might reference anything in the first 4 books, but spoiler alert beyond that, we'll hint at things to come, but we're totally not going to ruin it and tell you, like the ship sinks at the end or something like that. We're not going to do that, okay?
And
just so you know.
We'd ask those of you in the chat, please try to do the same for yourselves, as some of those who may be listening in here may not be any further than this. So
that's right.
All around, let's try to keep those spoilers reined in.
Very cool. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. We're going to New Orleans here shortly. I'm very excited. So I realized recently I'm taking the first full week off of work since I started this job over a year ago. And it is very nice.
It's about time, dude. You deserve a vacation. Yeah. Zach and I are going to be down in New Orleans with family the next week. We're actually going to do at least one recording while we're down there. Have some fun in the same room. But before we do that, we just have the perfect time to be able to wrap up The Shadow Rising. And we felt we should bring guests on. So that's why you see these fantastic people also on the screen with us. People who are very well acquainted with a setting and particular characters who show up prominently in The Shadow Rising. Much of the people from Threefold Talk show on YouTube, great things. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Why don't you all take a moment to introduce yourselves and tell us about your show, too, in case people who are here haven't seen yours yet.
Hi, I'm Melindra. I am Shido Aiel, and a Fardar is and me and my spear sister Bina Chiad and the roof mistress Leia. We have a show called Threefold Talk. It's with also our co-hosts Wise One Shelley and Rob Malkier Talks, and we do a live show on Thursday nights on YouTube, and we talk about Wheel of Time from the Aiel perspective, play a lot of games, and mostly have a lot of terrible fun and torture guests. Is kind of the way that we roll.
Laughter is definitely a regular part of your show. Hands down.
Absolutely.
Laughter and stabs.
And stabs, yes.
I'm all for stabs. Well,
people are there for the stabby stab.
Just not stabby stab.
Consensual
stab other
stabbing
people.
is what we're
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
If
big
you're
fans
gonna
of
poke someone,
consensual.
you should have permission. Let's be clear about that.
Yes, in all forms, all kinds of poking. Much more fun with consensual.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, again. Oh, go ahead, Bane and
Oh,
Chia.
I didn't know if you wanted us all to introduce ourselves or just
Yeah,
You
the
can.
please.
Yes.
Please
I'm
go
Bain and
on.
Chiad. I am Melindra's spear sister, and I'm one of the people on Threefold Talk, and I'm really excited to be here.
And I am Ruth Mistress Leia. Again, kind of the theme or part of Threefold Talk. So, yeah.
All right. See, great to have you here with us today. We're just going to have some fun. We do have kind of a general outline we're going to use to talk about this book and our experiences with Wheel of Time and stuff, but we'll be off-roading whenever we feel like it. The script goes where the script goes. Let's see. We're still getting reports in the chat that we've got that echo. So if anybody doesn't have headphones in, maybe turn your speaker down a little. Maybe that's so it's not happening that way. All right, because we will try to appease the masses and not drive you nuts with an echo. Sounds good right now. Okay, I think we're back on track. All right, before we dig into the book itself, we on this show almost always are drinking when we do content.
That's
So
fair.
it's important to share what we're drinking. We've invited you to be prepared to do that too. Zach, what are you drinking for today's show?
So I made a very interesting specialty drink just for today's occasion. It can be done with literally anything save one thing. I'm calling it the Aiel Wasted
That's a great name.
because you can any and every mixer that you want, put whatever you want in it, but for every ounce of something you put in it, you got to put in an ounce of usquai.
Of course.
Nice.
So by the end
You
of this,
have a
I
few
will be
ounces of
Aiel
usquai in
wasted.
there,
yeah.
Wow.
Just remember, you have to drive hours and hours tomorrow. And
That's tomorrow.
young boy's stamina. All right, fine. Well, I also created something special for mine, and this is what it looks like.
Very dark.
It's very dark. It's not super pretty. I call it the Double Dragon. What it has is a couple of shots of usquai, a couple of shots of amaretto, half a shot of blue curacao, and some splashes of grenadine. And I was hoping it would get purpler. It's a really dark purple.
It's a purple if you shine a light through it, maybe.
Maybe. It's tasty, though. It's going to turn my mouth black by the time we get through this show. But
That does sound
that's
delicious.
mine. Okay, the Double Dragon. Who else has one they want to introduce? What you're drinking today?
I'll go first. Keeping it kind of simple. Drinking a Viognier. So it's my
Nice.
favorite type of white wine.
Absolutely.
And the best part about it, it's $5 from Trader Joe's. So
Hey.
when I drink multiple bottles throughout tonight, it was probably only like $15 total for me to
Nice.
on this show.
Love
The
Trader
best
Joe's
wine is cheap wine that happens to taste good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Fortunately, you can take your chances on a lot of cheap wine until you find the good one.
oh yeah.
Bane and Chiad, what do you have?
I've got the Rafe Judkins special here. I've got a classic G&T. It's my favorite drink.
Nice.
So yeah, just some standard gin, some standard tonic, and a lime.
The lime is a nice touch.
Mm.
Doesn't quite look the same
Have to have
without
a
it.
lime.
Takes a little extra effort to go get a lime, though. So well done.
I always have a lime for that specific reason.
Nice. Melindra, what you got?
You can't see it because I'm wearing I'm using my blacksmith copper mug to drink my drink. But this is a Lilikoi margarita. So if you've ever been to the island of Hawaii, which can only be visited by particularly brave Aiel because you have to cross a lot of water. The fruit that grows there is called passion fruit or lilikoi, and in this drink is included lilikoi, and some habanero vodka
Ooh.
and
Ooh.
some olive juice and some lime juice and probably some rum because I don't know. There was a lot of things that was poured in here.
Wow.
Anyway, it's delicious, and I already had one, and now I'm having a second. So please forgive anything that I
Beautiful.
say for the rest of the evening.
That's part of how it's hard to remember
it.
exactly what's in there. It's the second already. There's probably rum. It's fine.
I don't know if I'm
Anyway,
excited
highly
or
recommend this
scared.
drink that I am not sharing the recipe to. You should 100% drink it.
Does it have a name?
I mean, I just call it a Lily Koi margarita, and it was like totally just pulled together from random stuff that is in my house, which conveniently all lends itself to drinking. So.
That's, all you need. Just a bunch of stuff that lends itself to drinking. That works.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, enjoy your drinks as we plow into our content now, and we just have some fun talking about, again, the Shadow Rising, Wheel of Time, whatever. We should really start out with, maybe a little bit out of character for our maidens here. Why are you a Wheel of Time person? How'd you get into this in the first place? Why are these books meaningful to you? So, who wants to go first? Jump in.
I'll go first. I started reading them in college. My mom has been a fan of the series from the first book, and I do remember her just like disappearing for days when this book series came out. And just for whatever reason, I think it was like to get her to stop bugging me or whatever. It's like, fine, okay, I'll start reading them. Just stop. And then I disappeared into a hole for several weeks while I caught up to wherever we were in the series, and then just got obsessed, started the perpetual reread every time a book came out, and have loved it since then. And I particularly like it because Robert Jordan is one of the few male authors that really gets the female voice right. And especially in fantasy, that was just such a rare thing to find, good female characters. And, I love the books in general. I love the male characters, but I always come back for these like wonderful female characters.
I love hearing that perspective. My wife is a first-time reader, and she's halfway through The Towers of Midnight. She hopes to finish while we're out of town now and maybe move into the final book over this next week.
That's so exciting.
But it's what sucked her in was I told her, no, you got to understand, there's these great male and female characters and the perspectives, the way he does them. You're going to fall in love with the characters. And she did.
Now,
she did.
Granted, it took 20 plus years of telling her this.
Oh, no, 30 years trying to convince her.
But hey, she got there.
Victory!
We turned her to the light side.
All right. How about you, Bane and Chiad?
So I started reading it either in early high school or late middle school. It was the first book was given to me to borrow by my high school sweetheart, my boyfriend at the time. He had read the books because his brother got him to read the books. And then he got me into it because he knew I liked fantasy, and our favorite movie was The Princess Bride. And so he was like, I think, yeah. So I think he knew I would like it. He knew what I was into. So I devoured them up through Crown of Swords. And then the first book I had to wait for was Path of Daggers. And he and I dressed as Elaine and Rand for Halloween one year. So it's just a nice cozy memory for me. But then I think I just stayed with the books because I fell in love with them. I love everything about the world of dreams. I just like to escape into fantasy. And then when I got into the fandom a few years ago, now I'm like never going to leave the Wheel of Time world just because I've met so many amazing, awesome people, which is another reason I love these books, because they've brought me to so many great friends.
They bring people together.
They
no
really
doubt.
do. Yeah.
Mel, how about you?
Yeah, okay, this might be like a false memory, but I swear I thought I saw my older brother reading these books when I was like a small kid. But I didn't pick them up for myself until I was a freshman in college. And I was like really stressed out. And I went to the library and I found The Great Hunt on the shelf in the library, and I picked it up and I was like, what is this book? So I read the whole thing. I read The Great Hunt and I was like, wow, that's an amazing book. And then I was like, what's the next book? And then I read The Dragon Reborn, and that was an amazing book. And then I like remember opening up The Dragon Reborn and looking at like the list of previous books, and there was The Eye of the World that was listed there.
Missing one, yeah.
As the first book. So it literally wasn't until after I read The Dragon Reborn that I was like, oh, there's a book 1. And that probably would make whatever happened at the beginning of The Great Hunt make sense. And so then I went back and actually read The Eye of the World, and I was like, okay, I get this now. And then I continued on. But that was in the late 90s, like 99, 2000. And then I got super obsessed with the books. And then I went online in the early days of the internet looking for a community and found the Wheel of Time Mud, which is the Wheel of Time multi-user dungeon. So it was like a text-based game, kind of a precursor to World of Warcraft. And logged in there and made a Aes Sedai, novice character and started playing that game, and ended up hanging out with Wheel of Time fans from all over the world. At the time, they had like 150 people playing at the same time. And it was just this text-based game, like completely built in the world of Wheel of Time. And I ended up meeting my real life Matt Coffin through that game, and we got married in 2003, and we're like literally next week going to celebrate our 19th anniversary.
Oh my God.
Woo!
Ramen rattle.
Yeah.
Ramen rattle. Hear the crap out of my cat.
I love that story so much.
It's great.
It's a wonderful story.
Yeah, good group.
I got into Wheel of Time when it was first coming out. I didn't probably find them until it was like 93 or 94. So there were only a few out. I read them and then had to wait for each new one. But I remember the first one that I bought fresh in the bookstore, I'd had to wait a little while and I didn't remember the details enough. So I read the first ones over again. And that happened every time after that, then, because it's so fun to reread. That's how I got into rereads. And then, of course, we had the gap of time when Robert Jordan passed away. Mm-hmm. And then, Brandon Sanderson is saving us. So then I did one more reread of them all and then read the final 3 books as they came out. But I'd only read those once. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. I feel better now. I'm done. Yay. And I moved on for years. Didn't do anything else until we got to this pandemic thing that was going on. And just before that, we had heard there was like a TV show maybe coming out and kind of rekindled. Oh, wait, Wheel of Time. Yeah, that's going to be awesome, a show. And I dove in and found out there's this whole crazy fandom of people spending all this time. I feel like I missed out for years because I had no idea this community existed. And it's been so much fun. Zach, who helped you find the books?
Oh, I just got born into this crazy mess. It's fantastic. I didn't get a choice. I was born and bred to read these books. Did I?
My children don't have a choice either.
And it's fair. I mean, they're great and should be read. Do I think you should force all 15 down someone's throat when they're 7? Probably not, but like they'll get there. I got there eventually.
I have a question for you, Jim. Like, how old was Zach when you first exposed him to the Wheel of Time?
Yeah, Zach, what was it? 13? 12? You were like 12 or 13, weren't you? Did I try even younger?
The first time I tried reading The Eye of the World, I think I was 8. I read about the prologue and the first 2 chapters. That's as far as I got. The first time I
Okay.
actually read more than that, I was 13.
Okay.
There you go. But that
So-
isn't when you finished, though, because you had a couple
No, I
of
didn't
false
finish
starts.
until I was like 20, 21. I finished in college.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know about you, but I didn't give my kids a choice. And my family's a big road tripping family, right? So we would go on
Mhm.
these epic road trips that would be like 20-hour drives, right? And the only book that makes sense to listen to on a 20-hour drive is some book of The Wheel of Time.
I mean,
So I'm pretty
yeah.
sure 6 months old is when my kids first got
Nice.
exposed.
A lot fan
to
by
Wheel of
osmosis,
Time.
just absorb it
They're
in.
just like Wheel of Time has been part of their life like since birth. Like I have 2 children. One is 14 and one is 7, and I'm pretty sure the older one, like we would just like turn it on at bedtime just to like be like the white noise that they would go to sleep by.
Mhm.
And my youngest has had an interesting, different experience because of the show. Obsessed with Rand, like obsessed, and asked me to like print out pictures of Rand that they can color like all the time.
I love that.
So I guess my point is that even if you don't necessarily understand it, there's no age that's too young to be exposed to the Wheel of Time.
There you go.
I would agree.
Well, thanks for sharing the stories. Those are great. I referenced that part of what got me back into getting excited with Wheel of Time was the fact that a TV show was coming out. So we've all seen the first season of the TV show. I'm going to throw in a little extra fun in the midst, scattered throughout this recording, where I've taken some images from the show and I've edited them. Now it's real raw editing, but I'm going to throw up an image in front of us and everybody gets to try to blurt out the fastest who's missing from the photo. Okay, now I've left the silhouette. You'll be able to see. So these won't be super hard, but we'll see how fast your reaction times are. So
Terrible.
I've got the
Depends
first
on
one
how much
that I'm
of
going
this
to pull
I've
up now.
drank.
I feel like the correct answer is always the Aiel.
Mhm.
Because you wetlanders
Who's
probably
missing
don't
from
see
this
them.
photo?
They're
always the
there. You just can't see them.
Yeah, we can see them because we know what we're looking for, but you
Exactly.
wetlanders will have no idea.
Not a
Correct. We are there
It's
from the
accurate.
very beginning. We are in Emmons Field at the very beginning, first episode.
All right, here comes first one. As soon as you're confident of who's missing, blurt it out.
Nynaeve.
Hey, ding, 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 ding. Nynaeve is totally the one missing.
That was
there.
solid. You got it before it even loaded for me.
Zach, your connection is suffering, man. That's
Sure,
unfortunate.
your connection.
Yeah. Listen, when you're a scout, you have to have really quick eyes. That's all I'm going to say.
That's right.
All right, we'll have more of those to come as we work our way through. But we're going to move to the segment of this episode where we're going to break the book down with specific things we're going to just talk about, different categories of topics here. This is where if you're a first-time reader, you probably should leave. I know we have one of those here with us in the chat, so I'm giving her warning now. This is when you jump out because you haven't finished the book, and we can't protect you past this point. So thank you, Carrie. Thank you for being here. And
Bye,
you can watch
Carrie.
the rest of the recording later.
That being said,
Exit.
as long as you finish this book, you're fine.
This is what she posts.
Exit
That
sushi.
was great.
Carrie, we love Carrie.
Absolutely. She's
Wonderful.
wonderful.
Can't wait for her to finish the books.
Yeah.
So she can
Yes,
participate in
definitely.
Yes.
everything. Because I know she wants to so badly.
She was working so hard to get through this book in time to be with us through this whole
Aw.
episode. Couldn't
Aw.
quite make it. Yeah. Okay, so first category, best moments in the Shadow Rising. This can be, not you have to have one best moment. What are some of the best moments for you as you experience this book?
There's so many.
There's too many to
There's
pick.
so many.
Start
Yeah.
blurting out. Let's go.
Okay, well, obviously the glass columns in Ruidian. That's
Oh, that is
Mhm.
my
Peak Shadow
favorite
Rising.
part of the whole book.
yes. Absolutely.
Clearly,
You get that whole
clearly.
history.
Mhm.
And can I?
Let's go.
Can I be?
Nynaeve going.
Go
Nynaeve
ahead.
going toe to toe with the Forsaken.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And then throwing a shoe at her. Pure gold right there.
Is it too sadistic to say when Rand tries to like revive the little girl?
Nah.
No, that's
Go
a
that
for
big
it.
Ah,
traumatic
Deep
moment.
so
Has
good.
long impacts
Mhm.
that we will not talk about. But spoiler light.
Yeah. Clearly, the revelation at Alcair Dal, obviously. Yeah.
Fail rallying the rest of the Two Rivers to help out
Yes.
the Battle of Two Rivers. Yeah.
And how she's so sure Perrin's going to be angry with her at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, not really. No.
You're being
It's good
awesome.
to see you.
I have to say that the moment in that book that makes me cry every single time, no matter what, is when it's the women's circle protecting
Yes.
the teenagers who have all, and the tinkers who have the toddlers and the children like strapped to their back. That moment, every time I read it in audiobook or book form, just instant sobbing every single time.
Yeah.
As weird as it is, that night is what I dislike White Cloak for more than any other moment throughout the books.
Yeah. Cowards.
Totally.
Yeah. My crying scene is when Perrin finally gets a chance to go to his family's graves beneath the apple trees.
Yeah.
Too much.
Now,
But then,
go ahead.
Sorry, but then like as a bookend to that, when that kid runs up to him and he's like, "Hey, I'm Jaina Ibarra. I think I'm your cousin, I guess."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like he still does have family. Yeah.
I don't cry at books. That's not my thing. I get wet eyeballs. That's as far as we go. Okay. But the wet eyeball moment for me is when Perrin initially finally breaks down, realizing his family's been killed.
Oh my God.
That's such a hard moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Basically that whole Perrin plot story.
Yeah.
And then but
this is peak Perrin though. This is his book.
Yeah.
I know he's gonna do other stuff, but this is Perrin, man.
When Devin Ride shows up,
He deserves a
though,
break.
Watch Hill. So good.
So good.
Other best moments that you haven't said yet? I mean, there is so much. It's a big book.
Loyal carrying Gaul back from the Waygate after they went to go lock the Waygate.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Here we've got one in the chat. Certainly another good one.
The moment when they enter Cold Rock's hold.
Yes.
When Roof Mistress,
Leah.
How do you say it, Leah? Leia?
I say
Leah.
I say Leah.
Okay. So the Roof Mistress welcomes Ruakin and then welcomes Coolanton as a beggar, and then Rand is welcomed and honored, even though he humbly asks permission to enter the hold. Then he's welcomed as a clan chief. All of that subtext is so subtle and so nuanced, but just so well delivered and perfectly delivered.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then Leah attempts to curtsy.
It's great.
There's frequent moments in this book where Rand, who's just going on gut instinct, does exactly the right thing. And one of the ones that has to be entertaining for you three is when he first says, that he doesn't need any more protection. The maidens have his honor. And they're just all, that's right. They're smiling. Yeah. And he's like,
Like,
that
he
just made
doesn't know
sense
what
to
he's
him.
done at that
No,
point.
he doesn't.
Yep.
Mm-mm. Not a clue.
He doesn't know what he's committed himself to. And he definitely pays for it over and over and over as the books progress.
With lots of really bad soup.
Lot.
Man, speaking to what he committed himself to, that original Usquai ceremony to seal the deal,
Yeah.
he basically gets drunk stupid and they put him to bed.
Mhm.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Zach, have we missed any of the best moments for you?
Yes, actually, because there's a character we haven't even mentioned throughout this.
Mhm.
Matt's got some journeys into the Aelfin and Eelfin, and I just love everything with that. I want more. I want more. I want to know more. It's some of my favorite parts of this book because it's so weird and different.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Good call there. Good call.
I had to bring Ashendari into the room.
That's why I was
because
like, oh, she brought it
legit.
over.
So, we can't talk too deeply about my relationship with Matt, but the way he so quickly morphs from just a like casual gambler playboy ideal to what he becomes is all of that transformation happens in this book, right?
really
and
does.
and
Yeah.
it plays out so beautifully, and there's so much foreshadowing for who he is and who he becomes and what he means to the wheel and the pattern in this book. It's just a beautiful thing to behold.
For many of us, Matt is their favorite character, and it's right here where it really is why. I mean, there's inklings before, but this is where it begins. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, he comes into his own through no fault of his own, which
and
is
yet
the
he's
most
still
Matt thing of Matt.
fully
Right.
Matt. You know, he's been transformed through this experience, but he's still fully Matt. And it plays out so beautifully right there at the end at Alcair Dal.
Yeah.
Oh, beep has hit the fan, and there's Matt off to the side, but the horses going to Rand. Psst. Let's go. This is the time. It's like, dude, really? But that's Matt.
I always forget that whole section is from Matt's point of view because it's like it's Rand doing all this stuff, but it just adds a whole bunch of comedy because Matt's just so clueless about everything that's going on, and so seeing it from that perspective, like Rand like is also clueless about the IEL, but so, like from his perspective, it would also probably be amusing, but it would be more in his head about what's going on and what he needs to do. Just having Matt tell that part of the story just lends levity to a very serious situation.
Absolutely.
Do you think he's actually clueless, or do you think he's in denial?
Which
is there a difference?
Rand?
Matt.
I think denial is a good word for Matt. He doesn't want to realize as much as I think he's already catching on to. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, I guess I wonder in this book if it is cluelessness that, and then further books becomes denial until he accepts his fate, or if he catches. I mean, he is very intelligent. He's very quick-witted. He's very smart. He's connecting the dots, and then the dots connecting are almost forced upon him, right? He's forced to connect the dots and then given the memories of hundreds of people whose whole life is filled with connecting the dots. I wonder how much he's pushing back against that versus how much he has just not allowed himself to accept.
At this point, I really feel like so much of Matt's story, especially in this book, is stumbling through trying to stay alive. Because he finds out very early, if he doesn't do this, he'll die. If he does this, he'll probably die. But, he maybe will undie. And so he's stepping on this weird path where he has no idea what the path will lead to, but he's been told all these other things are just death, and that's the last thing he wants. There are plenty of things he will tell himself that he wants, tell himself that he doesn't want, and he may or may not be telling the truth, but he doesn't want it to end.
Yeah, Suan in The Great Hunt puts it really well that he's the person who keeps saying, I'm not a hero, and then runs into a fire and rescues kids. So,
he does the right thing.
He does. He always does the right thing. He is a hero.
But he's not a bloody hero. Yeah. Lord, no bloody hero. None of that. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting to compare what we know of the characters of like Matt and Galad, just because they both are characters that we view as they do the right thing. But what does that mean across the two different things? It's so drastically different.
Yeah.
Well, one I'd go to a party with, and the other, no, thank you.
The other's there with the differences. It ends the party.
All right. That's a lot of best moments. We'll probably still talk more great moments as we go through our other categories, but I'm going to throw another Guess Who up in front of us here. So, again, another shot from the TV series, season 1. And for those of you later listening on audio, sorry, go watch YouTube because I can't help it. Okay? But here comes our next one. Loading it up. Zach will have a delay.
Wi-Fi, you
course,
can do this.
Which is why
I believe in you.
Bornhold.
Yeah.
Which one?
Joffrin.
Hey, there you go. Good job. Now, if I was really cool with technology, then the figure would suddenly crystallize and appear right there. But no, I'm not that good. Okay, I'm lazy.
You're
I am that good.
Still, for
lazy.
sure.
Imagine.
All right. Our next category, biggest surprises. Now, this is a challenge for, honestly, all of us who have read the whole series and may have read this book years ago, and so now on rereads, okay, we know it's coming. It's not really a surprise. Try to take yourself back, way back into yesteryear. And when you read this book for the first time, what were the biggest surprises? And I want to go around I'm going to pick people this time and give you a chance. So we don't talk over each other quite as much this time. I will try to help moderate. Go figure. Moderate. So Roof Mistress Leia, you first. What's something that was when you first read it?
We talked about it as one of our favorite moments, but I think Nynaeve fighting with Mogedion, going toe to toe,
and hangs.
And hangs, yeah, and is able to do it and like does beat her. So in her mental reaction is exactly what I think everybody's reaction is, because like the Forsaken are these terrifying people that, the boogeyman, and they're so powerful, and she's right there. She's untrained. She's not a full Aes Sedai. She's had less than a year in the tower, and she is kicking ass and taking names with Mogedion. And it's just like,
and we want more.
Yeah, and we want more. Yes. So like I think
Good
that
one.
Definitely one of my like, oh shit, what's happening?
Totally. Zach, how about for you? What was one of your surprises?
It seems such a small thing in comparison to the things around it, because so many of the things around it, I was like, yeah, no, I saw that coming. But the fact that Couladin actually has both dragons on his arms was
It's
like, hey,
supposed
okay,
to
I know
be a
he's going to do
surprise,
something.
yes.
I know other things are involved. I'm expecting Forsaken. How did he actually get those? And it was such a weird, like, what moment for me the first time I read it.
I like it. Yep. Bane and Chiad?
I think for me, I really was blown away and did not see it coming when we found out that the Aiel used to be the Tuathon. I didn't see it coming, and like upon rereading, I can see some little weavings of foreshadowing, but at the time, I remember I was just like floored, and I was like, this
Right.
is so cool. And it was like the moment I became absolutely addicted to the series, because it just, I just thought it was so interesting and so deep and profound. So
I
that's my
love that
moment.
one. That's
Yeah.
why that's my favorite moment in the whole book,
Right.
because wow, what a surprise.
Mhm.
And not only their history there, but also then to learn that link between them and the Tuathan.
Mhm.
You know, that what? You're from the same people? Yeah, whoa.
Mhm.
Whoa.
And that they're oath breakers. They're people that like are so strongly into their oaths and their honor, and to find this out about their past, it's so tragic and like horrifying. And yeah.
Yeah, good one. Really good one. Melindra, how about you?
I'm going to go to the other story arc because I think the moment when Nynaeve realizes that she can go toe to toe with Mo Gideon is just a moment of her kind of like understanding the juxtaposition of her position in the world alongside the things that she's always pushed back against, and she's fighting so hard to say like, I don't need to be an Aes Sedai. I don't need this. This isn't who I am. And yet at the same time, like she realizes that she's up against a Forsaken and has been able to go toe to toe with her because of the training she's had. And there's a humility in that, and also a frustration in that, and all of the interlocking layers of all of that juxtaposition of power that is hilariously illustrated by that one maid who wanders into the room and just like sees them like glaring at each other.
Yep.
Is just I feel like that's one of my favorite moments because it's so funny and yet so true to who Nynaeve is as a character.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, another good one. Definitely. If I gave bonus points though for people's performance in a recording, I'd have to toss you one for throwing in the word juxtaposition. That's a really good word for us here, and you're on your second
Such a
drink.
good
So
word.
well done. Well done.
Literally 2 in for sure, and I definitely did not shirk on the
It's transforming how we do episodes. I'm gonna have to work in a point system now. All right, I got this now.
It's a competition.
It will be. Oh goodness, surprises then. Wow, there are so many that I could put in here, but one of the early surprises that's, I don't know, it's just like it's a pleasant surprise, is Aginan, having her show up in this story again and become basically a good guy. You know,
Yeah.
that we see, okay, she's Shanshan, but wait a second. She's bonding. She's connecting with these Aes Sedai. She's clearly changing. We see the transformation of her mindset. And now we think she's on the good team. Look at that. That's a surprise. It's not a whoa, but it is, oh, interesting. And that's also some pretty good writing in the series to be able to do something like that with a character.
Do you think she's more of a surprise than Bail Dolman?
Yeah, I think so. For me, more of a surprise. But I love me some Bail Dolman. That guy's great.
He do be awesome.
Do be awesome, yes. All right, we all had a shot going around here now. I gotta go the right direction with the mirror. Anybody else want to toss one more in of a big surprise when you read the book?
I do. I was wondering if anyone else was really surprised and shocked by the tower coup, because I didn't see that coming at the time.
How could we not mention that? Holy crap.
We
There's
completely
so much in
skimmed
this
over it.
book.
Yeah,
I can't
all the
believe
best
I
things.
forgot about that.
Yeah, I forgot that was in this book also.
Oh,
Yeah, I was very surprised by that.
Yeah.
Great one. Zach, I think you had something else too.
Yeah, I'll throw in a small moment because I think at the time, once I got past it, I forgot about it. But in the moment, Rand leaving Kalendor was something surprising to me. It was like, okay, we spent all of last book and the big fight to get this, and then we literally put it in a big stone. Okay.
Yeah.
Good
But
point.
don't you think for him it was almost terrifying? You know,
Oh, absolutely.
he realized with what he tried to do in that battle with the Trollocs, like where he destroyed all the Trollocs all the way through the entire stone, and then couldn't do the simple task of keeping one small person alive. Like he realized that there's so much to the power that he didn't realize and he didn't understand, and he was taking on something that was so much bigger than himself. I feel like it made sense for him to almost come up with a reason to abandon it. It was like he needed to justify for himself a way to put it to the side and push it away, because he was overwhelmed by it. He didn't know how to handle it, and he needed to find a solution. But until that point, I don't know. It's just like the amazing point for him is that he's just moving on instinct and he's surviving on instinct. And it's like, it's amazing that he survives as long as he does.
Yeah.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. I feel like it was something that I saw and appreciated in hindsight, but as we kept moving forward, I was like, what's next? What's he going to try and do with it? Where's this going? And he left it. And I was like, okay, now I see all these things and I understand, but I didn't expect it.
Yeah. I didn't expect Asmodean to show up at the end.
Thank you. I was going to just go to that same one too. Yes.
Totally am on the same brainwave as you.
We expected Lanfear.
Right.
That wasn't such a shock, but Asmodean, yeah.
I think I remember just powering through that section, and things happened so fast, like that last chapter. And I remember reading it and then being like, what just happened? And then having to go back and reread the whole chapter because I was so confused. It was like, you know, this whole traveling skimming thing and showing up in Meridian. And it's like, wait, like, it's the Sanderlanche. Like, so much is happening.
Sanderlanche before there was a Sanderland.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of my favorite things when people, first-time readers on Twitter, are live tweeting as they're reading, and like they just completely gloss over, like they just go quiet for a little while because they're in that like, oh shit, what just happened? Oh shit, what just happened? Oh shit, what just happened?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've got a number of first-time readers who've been working through the series in our Discord, and it's so fun to see exactly that. Sometimes they just drop out.
Yeah.
And then they come back.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So good. It's like, I'm just so excited.
Do you guys remember what you thought of the Aelfin and the Ilfin when the first time you encountered them? Like, do you remember like thinking, what is happening, or
this
makes sense, or like, is this freaky, or does this fit? Like, where were you in the context of the world of books when this completely out of left field thing was introduced to you?
I don't think it's possible to fully appreciate those guys the first time through.
Yeah.
So much better on a reread.
Yeah.
That being said, I really just want to know how they got enough people to make clothes out of human skin.
Ew.
Gross.
Logistically, it takes a lot.
It just takes one like wrestler. That's all you need.
Yeah. I remember thinking that they were really cool. I was like, this is cool. And I loved the mystery that they added to the books of like, you know, it was like obviously very clear foreshadowing in those moments of like, okay, these are the things that are going to happen to you, Matt. And, but you still didn't know what it was. And it was just really, I found both of his visits like very chilling and very exciting and interesting. And it was another one of along with Ruidian, I think it was another one of the reasons I was really finally like totally drawn in.
Matt's second visit has such a level of humor to it because he's going in with this plan. He's got it all figured out. Here we go. And what? That's not what he expected. And it's hilarious. And yet, and this goes into our next category, which is going to be called terrific teasers. The things that he experiences, oh my.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my. But we'll save that for a moment because I got another guess who now. I'm going to throw in another picture at you. And these are going to progressively get harder. I kind of started out with a couple fairly simple ones. All right, so this time, let's see who catches this picture the fastest. Just blurt it out.
So nervous.
Leandrin.
Leandrin, who said that first? Was that
Leia.
Truth Mistress?
Yeah,
there you go. Well done. Just tucked in behind there. Yep. Good job.
Normally with things like this, like it's right on the tip of my tongue. I'm just like, I know it.
It's very stressful.
It is very stressful.
That's a great scene from the show, by the way. I mean,
Totally.
Well done. Well done. All right,
so
let's
what
move
did you
in.
think about the characterization of that? Like, it was a different interpretation versus the books, but it also communicated all sorts of things that maybe we hadn't considered in the books before, right?
It was definitely a different take on Logain, and I kind of like it. I admit that. There's a lot of changes that the adaptation makes from the books that I'm still trying to convince myself I like, because I want the TV show to be awesome, but I'm still not sold on. I'm like, I gotta give it more time, see where they take this. Okay, but the Logain stuff kind of worked for me. That was cool.
Yeah, I like the way it conveyed so many messages without somebody having to monologue a lot. So how terrified people are of male channelers and the taint, and Aes Sedai's whole job, specifically the Red Ajah's job is to go hunt down these male channelers and bring them so society is safe. And so all of that is encapsulated. And then also the concept of false dragons and the terror in the past that they've brought upon Randland, and why being the Dragon Reborn can be a very scary thing. So again, like all of that just which took Robert Jordan several books to explain, and they were able to really nicely tie it up in a bow.
Yeah.
And, again, without somebody having to monologue, which would just kill but that explanation is needed. It's critical to the plot line.
Yeah, the best part of the scene for me, I admit, is just how beautiful it is. They lay it out with all the colors and the majesty of the tower, and just it was gorgeous.
Yeah,
and powerful. It was well done.
I think for me, the thing that catches me the most is the subtext. All of the underlying emotions, all of the underlying relationships that permeate the history. Like, you can tell from the show, you can tell that each of these people have a history with each other, whether it's Leandrin and Moiraine, or Swan and Moiraine, or Alana and Moiraine. It tells you that there is a depth there. There's layers there. There's something beyond what the face value there, and it leads you to be like, well, what is happening? I want to know more. Like, what's the history there? And
wait, Swan and Moiraine have a relationship?
That's for a different book. Have you gotten to that book?
Oh my!
I'm currently rereading that book right now, actually, and I spent probably over the last few days like I don't know, 4 or 5 hours listening to the audiobooks and just being like, holy shit, how blatant is this? How blatant is this? And like, I guess I hadn't it's interesting because I mean, I knew who they were and what they meant to each other, but it wasn't until the show illustrated it visually that I went back and listened to it auditorially and then connected the dots. It was,
Now, I will ever and always now think of that as your second prequel, Mel. We actually had someone in chat earlier saying, yeah, The Eye of the World, it's like not super necessary. It's kind of like a prequel. Yeah.
it's true.
For some people more than others.
Yeah, for sure. Like it was completely like unintentional that I read it in that order, and
But it didn't
like
diminish it didn't diminish the books for you. They were
no,
like,
I remember The Great Hunt starting off in Faldara and being like, what? Like literally the first prequel, or like the first prequel is not the word I'm looking for. Prologue. Thank you. The first prologue I read was The Dark French Social. That was the first thing I read. What a crazy way to dive into the series. And I feel like it predicates like where I am in the fandom right now. But
Honestly,
I was like, I had no idea what was going on, and then it starts off with Rand being like, "Oh, the Shienarans are super formal, and they won't let me into the women's quarters, and I really need to speak to Egwene." Like all of that, I was just like, I have no idea what's happening, but I am in.
See, I have two key thoughts here. One, you're just as lost in the Eye of the World's prequel, maybe more so.
Prologue.
But two, prologue. Thank you. Two, there's a lot of fantasy books that do this exact thing. Brandon Sanderson does this all the time. We start out with something where you're completely lost and have no idea what's going on. So it's not shocking you'd read The Great Hunt and not realize this isn't the way you're supposed to feel. That's what fantasy does sometimes.
It's true. I feel like there's something in fantasy that allows you to be humble and allows you to be okay with the discomfort of not knowing. And there's something about being comfortable in not having all the answers that leads you to the bliss, I guess the bliss of inquiry, the bliss of discovery, the bliss of inquisitiveness, that maybe the discomfort that exists when you don't have all the answers, and the humility that it puts you in, that establishes you in the understanding that you're in a world that you don't understand, you're in a world that you don't expect, and you're in a world that you know is going to challenge your expectations and is going to challenge the way that you interpret everything that's happening before and after. So I don't know. I can't say that I was like a huge fantasy fan before I picked up The Wheel of Time. I read all sorts of different kinds of books. I feel like the first like long form book series that I was like super into was The Babysitter's Club. Like I have no answers.
Oh, that's great fantasy.
I cannot explain it, but I like the idea of being open to something that you don't understand and you don't expect, and just like trusting the process. That there's something about the way that Robert Jordan wrote that made it so that you could trust that at some point you'd figure it out.
Yeah,
and that's where I found myself at the very beginning of The Great Hunt and all the way into the transition into, I don't know, there's a lot of comments about how the first 3 books were one phase and 4 through 6 were another phase, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like it created and evoked a world of trust, and kind of put my expectations in his hands and trusted him to lead me to that point. Yeah.
I like it. Now, the chat has mentioned something that we should just jump into real quick here, in that prologues that we keep calling prequels, but we're going to stick to calling prologues now. Robert Jordan later created a new sort of prologue to the prologue of The Eye of the World called Ravens. It came out with the kind of young adult edition as he tried to get the teens hooked. Psst, want some? And here we go. Ravens. What do you think of Ravens?
I've never read it.
Dude.
Oh, really?
Seriously?
Nope.
Oh.
I've sat here and gone
So can we...
jumping where it was. It was a little bit of a like, is this kind of a weird, like, clueless to then into it? Yeah. But I almost, partially because when I originally read it, it was from the beat up, literally falling apart version that you still had.
Well, that's true. That was that old version.
And then when I picked up a nice, pretty new copy, it was made to look like the original edition kind of thing, but pretty. And it didn't have Ravens either. And so I was like, I didn't know this was a thing until I really got more into fandom and went, oh, that's a thing.
Yeah.
And there's almost like a purist in me, even though it is real, that doesn't want to read it.
It's like, is it really real? I mean, okay, Jordan wrote it, but I feel like he wrote it under duress.
Before we go too far, do you guys want to explain what Ravens is? Because I feel like we've missed that context.
We should, because there could be people who haven't ever experienced it. I have no idea what we're talking about. There, to the best of my ability, there was an edition that came out later where the Wheel of Time, the Eye of the World, was broken into two books, two smaller books. So it was more consumable for the young adult audience. And for that first one, a additional prologue was added called Ravens, an early chapter that is basically Tam, Rand's father, talking with Egwene, a young Egwene, and basically just talking about the history of the world and helping you have some background so that when you get that other prologue later on, you kind of have a blooming clue what's going on. Because they've set the stage. They've painted it for you. They told you what you really needed. They gave you context. And to me, it's an insult to fantasy readers who think you have to have context to figure it out. No, it goes against what Mel said earlier, that we're going to discover later as we go. It's not like this book wasn't already amazingly popular, but publishers felt this would help them reach an audience they hadn't reached yet. So I felt like it was a business deal thing, and good on Robert Jordan for playing ball, but I didn't need Ravens. I just didn't need it. Just saying.
That's really interesting you say that, because my only exposure to Ravens, and I have not read Ravens in any other context, is via the graphic novels. Because the graphic novels integrate Ravens and the original prologue together for volume 1 of The Eye of the World. And I feel like there's something more approachable about Egwene and the Ravens and the messages and the omens and all of that than in that format, in that specific format, than the format that we're exposed to in the books. But granted, I say all of that under the guise of the fact that the first book I read was
I threw Skeeter's thoughts on Ravens up on the screen here. Skeeter, glad you're here with us. I get he kind of channels exactly what I'm thinking there. But for the target audience they were going for, it made a lot of sense.
I have something that I like about Ravens, but I don't know if I should share it if Zach hasn't read it, because it's like a little bit of a plot spoiler.
Go for it. I could care less about spoilers.
That's true.
Which is funny that I'm on spoiler light.
He reads the end of a book before deciding to start the book.
I don't go that bad. I do sometimes briefly check sections of wikis to be like, this thing I'm thinking, does it happen? And then I feel a little
So
guilty
wrong.
about it.
So
But I
wrong.
read quickly enough to catch it.
Gotcha.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah.
What is your thought?
So I agree with what you're saying about, about ravens not really needing to be necessary for the backstory and everything. However, I enjoyed my experience of it having read the entire series first and then going back and finding ravens, because it just felt like going home kind of, and some like nostalgia for the two rivers and Tam. But also my favorite thing though is Egwene and her characterization. That's what I like about ravens, because Egwene has always been one of my favorite characters. And so when I went back to read Ravens and she's there saying, I'm going to be the best water carrier ever. Like, I just loved that. I just felt it in my heart. Like, oh, that is so Egwene. And even though it's not necessary, I enjoyed it because of my love for the series. And it was just like a fondness that I feel for it as
I will
as
agree
a
with you
prequel.
there. Yeah, that is one really shining part of Ravens.
As
Just
weird
seeing
as
that
it is,
additional insight into Egwene, early Egwene,
Yes.
still being true Egwene. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
with
That's
their
exactly what I was going to
experience-
say. So I'm going to just hard second that. Yeah, it's not necessary to move the plot forward, but like baby Egwene is Egwening.
She's so Egwening.
Egwening.
Yeah,
Right, Zach,
it's
jump in. What are you going to say?
I want to know, do you think it would be better to read it as a prologue where it is, theoretically, or treating it as that jump back in and get that early perspective? Does it actually deserve a place as an epilogue to the series?
I wouldn't say an epilogue, but I do think it's better after you've read the series.
Because it just makes so much sense.
Just a little added icing.
Where would you put it, Zach?
I haven't read it. That's why I'm asking. Should I read it?
Well,
it's interesting. I mean, it's
if
more.
You want to have consumed everything Robert Jordan wrote of The Wheel of Time, yes, you have to read it.
Yeah, because
I should also visit.
There are two other short stories, so which are very spoilery. So I'm not even going to bring them up. But I'm going to bring them up. I'm not going to talk about them at all. But but both of those you could read after. I think the Egwene one you could probably I feel like once you become a little bit more familiar with who Egwene is, that's when you should read it. You can insert it anywhere, but just the knowing who adult Egwene starts growing into makes it just makes it more enjoyable, in my opinion.
Sure.
I might push for like after Knife of Dreams then.
Probably, yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Fair point. Fair place. Yeah.
So, for context for me, Egwene is hands down my favorite character. Like I've definitely matured as I've grown up, but for Egwene, I feel like there's something about her that I admire so much in the fact that she's unapologetically going after the things that are important to her, and she's not afraid to express her curiosity. She's not afraid to express her interest in bettering herself. She's not afraid to push herself beyond the bounds of the societal parameters that are put towards her. And so the idea that Raven sets Egwene up to be the person that she is from the get-go, with a context that is different than the context that is presented in the Eye of the World and succeeding books up to and including Shadow Rising, I think. There's definitely an acknowledgement there from Robert Jordan of who he wants Egwene to be and a foreshadowing of who she becomes that I think he acknowledges in the Ravens prologue that maybe you don't get from the POVs from other characters looking towards Egwene, right? There's Rand's got his own baggage. about Egwene. Matt's got his own baggage about Egwene. Nynaeve's got his own baggage about Egwene, but Egwene doesn't always get the chance to express herself and help you connect to her as who she is. And in the context of greater society, especially in America and that sort of stuff, I feel like Egwene is just a huge breath of fresh air. And we should give her the kudos that she deserves, especially in the context and the time in which she was written.
And she's Aiel. She has
And
an
she's
Aiel heart.
Aiel. And she's
To the
Aiel.
core. To the
How
core.
have we gone? What time is it? 8 o'clock? 8. Sorry, I'm Central Time. 9:11 Eastern. We've gone like an hour, and we haven't.
And we're halfway done. All right.
Enough into the Aiel. Maybe we should transition to that.
So let's talk about our next section, which is one we have to talk about very carefully. The terrific teasers. Okay, the things that are laid down in this book that are going to be huge later, but the way they're laid down here was just awesome, and people can't truly appreciate them till they read the rest. But we're like now in hindsight going, oh, that was so good. Let's go to Bane and Shiad first. Do you have one for us?
Yes, this might be cheating because it's really like obviously foreshadowing, but I really like the things that the I forget who comes first, Aelfin or Ealfin, but the first trip through the Red Door.
Aelfin first.
Aelfin,
or
okay.
later.
So what the Aelfin
Alphabetical.
say to Matt about the daughter of the Nine Moons and giving up half the light of the world to save
Oh
the
my
world.
goodness. Yes.
It's like I just pondered that so much. I was like, what does that mean? What is going to happen? And I kept like each book, I kept like looking for it. Like, oh, is that the daughter of the Nine Moons? Like, who is this? So
Just like Matt did.
It was
Does
such
this
a great.
mean anything to you?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's such a great teaser and such a great like way to like write it into the plot as like, you know, part of the lore. And I don't know, it's just great.
Great one. I'm going to go the other direction around this time to mess with it. Zach, how about you?
Crap. Either way, I'm second. Again, we're gonna throw some little obvious, but where it is gonna go, maybe not so. We've got multiple Choden Call in play now. And it's like been talked about, some of the implications of what you could do. One's been used at this point by two people at the same time while they're fighting over it, but it's fine. Where that's gonna go is crazy.
It's clear there's significance coming with that. 100% clear. Yeah, good teaser. Roof Mistress Leia.
So mine's kind of cheesy, but there's seeds of multiple relationships that happen later in the books that are all basically started here. So people are just meeting folks that become significant to them later on. And it's just interesting because some of the don't happen until like the last couple of books, and these little Easter eggs are already being dropped, and it just lends to the brilliance of Robert Jordan, how he knew all this stuff early on and is already planting those seeds. Also, and I'm just going to say two names because they become significant, but Thera and Lyowen. Both happen in this book.
Lyowen was a great one. Yeah. Nice teaser.
Yeah. So that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. There's so many I could pick from. The first one I'm going to go with, though, is from right near the end of the book. Seeing Lanfear's reaction to Rand asking about the others and did she hurt anyone else? You know, and her comments about, I know you're over that farm girl thing. But... And then what happens with a little bit more that's said is such a teaser for what's coming. I liked that.
Mm.
Mel, how about you?
Sorry. I feel like there's so much going on with Asmodean that is revealed at like the very bitter end, but it's so significant to who Rand is and develops to be as a character that that we can't ignore that. We can't ignore his need for Asmodean. We can't ignore what Leandrin does to make Asmodean accessible to him. And the motivation behind that is completely confusing. Like, what is she trying to do?
Yeah.
By making him accessible to him, but not in the sense that he could harness the full power of everything that Asmodean could teach him. It's like she gives him an inch and then she takes a mile away. I don't know. Like, there's so much need there. And she's such a confusing, frustrating character. And Asmodean, his motivations are also intertwined with hers and interplays in all of the layers of that amidst his fulfilling of prophecy and the incredible things that he's just revealed to an entire like warrior society group of people. Like, there's so many things that challenge your expectations and challenge your notions of what's going to happen next. Like, to be frank and to be honest, I cannot fathom how they're going to characterize that in the TV show, and to a way that matches the way that it was revealed to us in the story, in the books.
Solid. Does anyone have another one they want to put out here? Okay, I see some. So, Roof Mistress, your hand went up first. Go ahead.
Perrin's continuing relationship with the White Cloaks and how toxic it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah.
Zach, you had one too. Go ahead.
While we're on that section of the story, Aram picked up the sword.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Another one for me is the whole male Adam. And can you just go drop this in the bottom deepest part of the ocean? Yeah, do that.
No big deal. Just go take care of that.
I'm sure we won't see that ever again. Nope,
no
definitely
big
not. We've dealt with it. It's gone.
Like,
I just thought of one.
Okay, Bane and Chad, go for it.
The one where Min sees glory to come around Logain. And he's gentle, so you're like, what? Like, what?
Yeah.
And super depressed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking here now of one that I think, again, we start to blur with books.
Yes.
But isn't there a pretty significant teaser already with Galad? Who he's hanging with? Yeah. That's this book. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a little.
But he's not just staying around in town. He's hanging out
What?
just over the
That's
bridge.
in this book too?
In this book, it's mentioned he's been handed a book by another.
What the heck?
A book.
How
A
is
significant
all of this
book.
happening?
I know
Because
there's
it's
so
the
much
best
of this
book in the
There's a reason
series.
it's my favorite.
Okay,
Also,
all of you guys are like, this is the best book, but seriously, I'm in the next book, And the fact that you guys are all like, the best book is the book that Melindra is not in is just
But it's the
devastating to
best
me
because
as a
of what it
person.
means for the rest.
It's just paving the way for you. That's all.
Oh yeah.
It's true. It's true. It's building up the staircase to my glory. My glory.
That's
Also,
right.
another good
Think of the glory.
teaser is Patton's Fane evolution. Like he's continuing to evolve from just
Yes.
being the dark friend peddler, and he's starting to get
uh-huh.
even more scary and freaky.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
So like,
Now you jump to that, which takes me back to the Two Rivers. So, I mean, another foreshadowing is Slayer, and you know what he looks like,
Mm-hmm.
how
and
much
what
he
the
looks
Trollocs
like.
are chanting
Yeah,
as they're going to the Battle of the Two Rivers.
man. Yes, exactly.
Which Michael Kramer does that voice so well. It's like, ah.
The chat has a suggestion for us, like Blinded Fool. Thank you. That is definitely, I think, some foreshadowing as well. A fun
Hey,
one.
now
Definitely.
that's a given through the entire series. That's not something that was foreshadowed. That's not something we need to wait on. That's just like that's clearly defined. Like as much as Pillow Friends are defined, Avienda and Elaine are like.
I always love the Twitter polls that are like, on the show, will Elaine's first scene be in a bath? And people pretty universally are like, if it doesn't happen, we rebel. Elaine is always in a bath. I'm not complaining. Like, I love baths, and I also love Elaine in a bath.
So I'm gonna be super honest about Elaine and how I see her. And I don't know if Robert Jordan saw her the same way, but Elaine is just as much an engineer as Eludra is. And she doesn't get enough credit for her engineering ability as Eludra does because she's disconnected further from the romance. But Elaine's inquisitiveness and her categorical, and forgive me if this is a bit spoilery, her categorical investigation of all of the things that she discovers is deserving of the credit to Elaine's mind and her abilities that is not as much acknowledged as it should be. Like,
okay, more points to Mel. Categorical. We had juxtaposition. Now we've got categorical. She's got the syllable game going on.
Okay, those are like
not
super basic
words. Speaking of juxtapositions, though, we talked about the great traits of Elaine. We also get drunk Elaine in this book.
Oh my god! Which is so
yes,
funny.
that's a great scene. Yes,
I only had one glass.
Just one glass.
I just had one glass.
I said, naive. Hey, come here. I've got something for you to look at. You need to see this.
Listen, homegirl's super confused. She's like figuring shit out from when she was like fucking 3 to 5 years old, and she's like, wait.
I remember doing this.
I remember lots of stuff, and I'm putting 2 and 2 together. Listen, I have 2 kids. One is 14 and one is 7. And the 14-year-old hilariously has just started like picking up the things that me and real life Matt Coffin say to each other, in the sense that we're just like, we just say ridiculous bullshit to each other. And he's like, wait, that was sexual. And we're just like, welcome to being an adult. And I feel like that is the definition of Elaine in this book, where she's just like, wait, I'm figuring this stuff out. I'm suddenly coming out of my shell, suddenly coming out of the protection of the Lenny bubble and trying to extrapolate and understand the relationships between all of the people in my life and the realism of what they've gone through, and there's so much in pulling mustaches. There's so much subtext in that is not acknowledged, and I feel like Robert Jordan doesn't get enough credit to understanding the way that people like come into their own with realization about romanticism that he has put forth in this. Like, Elaine gets a lot of shit, right? Elaine and Rand, their relationship gets a lot of shit about how they spend like 2 days flirting and kissing in the corners of the stone tier, right? They get all of this like, oh, that's not a real relationship. That's not a real understanding of how people develop. But then Elaine has spent her entire life like watching and observing the intricacies of how the subtleties of relationships develop, that she has rejected that and then just been willing to be like full force, like, I like you, I think you're beautiful, and I want to marry you, so I'm gonna kiss you in the corners of the stone tier. Like, there's so much confidence, there's so much awareness of her position, there's so much self-realization in Elaine and her and the 2 fucking letters. Like, how have we not even talked about
those letters? Had me messed up for years trying to figure out what in the world is she doing.
Like, Elaine knows what she wants. She knows what she wants, and she wants to express it in both extremes, so Rand can capture the essence of who she is and process that. And she's backed up by her near sister, Avienda, to translate all of Elaine's, from Rand's perspective, crazy into reality. Like, there's like that, like, Avienda is the best fucking wingman anyone could ever ask for.
Which they will come to understand better as we move through the series. Absolutely.
Yeah, and talking about how people criticize Robert Jordan for not writing romance very well, this book has so many fantastic romantic scenes. So between Lan crashing into the room to like profess his love to Nynaeve, like, that's super sexy. And then Perrin and Fael getting married and the building of their relationship throughout this whole book. Like, there's so much amazing romance, and I feel like that is realistic. I actually do think the Rand and Elaine stuff is kind of sweet. Like, for your first real boyfriend or your first real girlfriend outside of somebody who you were supposed to marry your entire life. It's kind of like, I remember being a high schooler making out at my locker all the time. Like, that exists. So, and the fact that she's just there to help him, like, she just wants to help him so bad. It's so sweet. Like, there's those very like nourishing moments. There's so many more in there, but again, spoilers. So.
All right, let's move this ball down a little bit more then. I've got another Guess Who for us. Okay, so get your guessing ready. Good luck, Zach.
Bella. I'm already guessing.
Okay,
just going.
So let's pull this up and get ready. Go.
It's Narg.
Rand.
No,
Matt's back there.
Matt.
Yes, it is Matt. Not as we will see him moving forward, but as we saw him previously. Yes.
Is this right before they start singing "Weep for Manetheren"?
It's just before that. Yeah, just shortly before that. Good one. Who got that right?
Do we need to have a sing along at the moment?
I'm not prepped. No.
We walk the footsteps of a father.
Instead, let's move to the next part. I'm looking for your 3 favorite characters. when you finished The Shadow Rising, so forget about the rest of the books. You were only this far. Which ones were your 3 favorite at this point?
Is this projecting back to the first time we read it?
Yes. Again,
Okay.
thinking back, when you'd only read through The Shadow Rising, you're like, these characters are great. I love these ones. And try not to let it be shifted by what you know is to come. So I'll start on this one.
Mhm.
Okay. I was definitely already a Matt guy at this point. I enjoyed what I was seeing out of Matt. I also already liked Loyal, because Loyal, just from the first moment I met him, I loved Loyal. So I was in with those 2 right away. And the third one, part of me wants to say Rand, but I don't think it really was Rand at this point. Because, he's like, shouldn't I like him? Because he's like the main guy, maybe, or something. No, it wasn't Rand for me. The one that I was already enjoying at this point was Gaul. We'd just seen bits and pieces, but we get quite a bit of Gaul here in The Shadow Rising. And when you add it to what we already had coming in, I was like, man, this guy entertains me. I like Gaul. He's dry, that wit. And then the interactions he's got going on with Bane and Chiad just cracked me up. And it only gets better on the rereads, but yeah. So
Totally.
There's mine. Okay, who wants to go next? I won't put you on the spot. Who's ready?
Zach has to go second.
I think they're right. Zach,
well,
you're
since
next.
I have to go second, I do have to follow you and say Matt. I was a Matt fan more or less from day one. But Matt, in this book, Perrin, he shines a lot for me. And then finally,
I just get you frustrated with Perrin, but okay.
Well, I'm gonna say a bit of a rock in a stream that is a very different spot for this character. Min was a strong one for me here.
Interesting. Elman
I could see
Dreda.
that. I could see that.
Okay. It's a fair pick.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
I'm having problems thinking of who my third would have been.
All right, I can go, Leia, and then you can think about it longer.
Yeah, of course, you're gonna pick somebody. I'm gonna be like, oh, that person.
So I mentioned Egwene is one of my favorite characters. So Egwene definitely had me hooked at this point. I loved her dream walking stuff. I thought that was so cool. So definitely Egwene. Second would be Matt. Matt actually didn't end up becoming one of my favorites of all time, but I really loved him at this point, and I loved his journey with the Aelfin and Eilfin, and I just thought it was so cool what he was going through. And then my third would be Fael. Fael won me over in this book. I'm a Fael fan. I'm not a big fan of some of the things that happened early in The Shadow Rising, but I feel like she redeems herself here, or starts to redeem herself. She's got kind of a long way to go, but starts to redeem herself when she's comforting Perrin, and then when she brings the rest of the Two Rivers to save him. I loved that part.
Nice. We do have a nice one tossed into chat that I'll put up here. One who really likes Varen.
Yeah, that's a really good one too.
There's a lot to like in what we've seen with Varen. All right, Leia.
All right.
Got?
My first two are the same as Bane and Chiad, like Matt and Egwene from the get-go, all the way through the series. They remain my two favorite characters for very different reasons. But and then the third one is so hard because there's just so many. Like Gaul's a great one, Min, Fael, Varen. But I think I'll just throw out a different one. Tom. I also always love Tom. He always brings this fun levity and this gravitas And I love him. And oh my god, I'm totally blanking. But his banter back and forth with
Julian.
Julian, thank you.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
I knew that was wrong. But yeah, like just them playing off of each other. It's just like pure gold. And oh my god, seriously.
And Tom's arc through these first books is great. I mean, we see so many different sides of his character. Love it. Yeah, that's a good one.
And he, especially on a first read through, I know I wasn't picking up his actual background and like some of those things, but you're starting to see those, getting back to the tasers discussion, some of those like little nuggets that are thrown in there. Anyways.
Totally.
So
Mel, you jumped off the screen for a little while to think about your 3 favorite characters. So we're all waiting now, eager for what you came up with.
Yeah, so sorry. Okay. I'm gonna mention someone that we haven't talked about at all, and one of those is Barrelane.
Oh.
So she's introduced in Fires of Heaven. She has this weird, confusing relationship with Rand and with Perrin, and then Ruark comes into play and like puts her in her place, and no one knows what is up with her, right? And Barrelane for me is the definition of a woman who's like trying to figure out how to navigate in a world where she's at a disadvantage, but she has a certain collection of assets that she can use to her advantage to manipulate situations to take advantage of young men or older men in order to protect her people, right? Yeah. Barrelane is super complex, and you don't necessarily understand everything about her. So she's definitely up there, my number one. I could not continue on without acknowledging Matt Coffin as I can't talk about him without spoiling Fires of Heaven.
So thank you.
Don't spoil Matt. So we're just gonna put like just my Matt stamp on all the things. And then my other stamp is Nynaeve, and Nynaeve figuring out who she is in her relationship to everything else that is happening in the world. So yeah, Barrelane, Matt, and Nynaeve.
I want to just jump back at when you say Barrelane. Her introduction in this series is great in The Dragon Reborn, just kind of thrown right in there at the end. I mean, she gets mentioned, but then comes in with this note, no messenger. Yeah, it was great. I love that introduction. It's better on a reread.
Can I make an honorable mention?
We own this show, Zach, so yes, you may.
Cool. Because it doesn't make my list, but every book has kind of unpeeled a new layer to this character, and I think it's something very interesting to see, and I always like it. I'm also going to get called a dark friend again. Padan Fain.
I knew you were going to Padan Fain now, man.
It's not my top 3, but it is a mention worth saying.
All right. Well done. I agree completely, though. Padan Fain is a character I did not appreciate well enough on the first read. Mm-hmm. It was just totally missed so much of the nuance in that character. Yeah.
Because he's just not there often, but when he is, if you're not really paying attention, it's easy to gloss over.
You want to get past it to the real stuff. This is like fluff. Yeah, let me get back to the real stuff.
He's just a couple paragraphs in the middle or at the end of a chapter. He never has his own chapters.
Yeah.
like a whistle in the wind.
Right? We see what you did there. All right. All right. Time for another Guess Who. Let's see. Again, getting a little harder each time. I only have this one and one more. So let's see how well you do guessing this character.
Bella.
Absolutely. You're like, where's the missing one? Oh.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
I feel like
Sorry.
that's full of spoilers to reference Bella right now. Don't you think?
Oh man, no.
I don't know.
We
She's
liked
in
Bella. She
like
was
every
important
book
in the
so
eye of the
far.
world, and
Bella is in every book.
around.
Yeah, Bella. We know
Yeah.
Bella.
We know Bella.
Bella's good.
Bella
We're
is
okay
the
there.
creator.
No, I don't discount. So I guess that's a good question. Is like, at what point is Bella's like status greatness? Like, at what point is it elevated to the level that she has held our esteem for 14, 15 books?
There's two places. One,
Mhm.
when imaginary Bella. Okay, I don't want to say any more.
Yeah.
That would be spoilery. But okay, right there. And second, when you finish the books and you enter the fandom, that's when Bella really goes next level.
I disagree because Bella's prestige and Bella's abilities like predate the end of the series. Like the fandom's obsession with Bella started pre-Memory of Light, pre-Gathering Storm, pre-Path of Daggers. Like, it goes back.
I think the
again,
Wheel of
not
Time
spoiling too much.
obsession.
Who killed blank? Bella, right? I mean, come on.
The Wheel of Time feelings around Bella reminds me a lot of, like, jump over to some other fandoms here. Harry Potter. Everyone loves Dobby
Hedwig.
or Hedwig or these almost cute
We
side
like
tertiary characters that we love.
Yeah,
That's where Bella
That's a good
sits.
point.
We all love it.
Bella's just always where she needs to be. So, like, she's there for the people who need her. She doesn't speak at all. Like, you never get her POV, but she is just always exactly where she needs to be. And the plot would have fallen apart without her. So, Egwene wouldn't have been able to get out of the Two Rivers.
Man, if only we'd had a Bella POV.
I wish.
Wouldn't
so
that have
much.
been adorable?
Especially as she's talking about all this
Somebody
swearing to the
fanfic like
Dark
that for us,
Lord.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the Harry Dresden novels, that series, and there's a character in Harry Dresden in the Dresden Files called Mouse, and in one book, Mouse has a POV. Mouse is a dog, okay, but Mouse has a POV in one book. And it's hilarious to actually see all these other characters through Mouse's point of view. I would have killed for Bella's point of view. Yes, that would have been
I might
classic.
actually write that. I might
Do
just
you
write
guys-
that.
But seriously though, do you think so? Bella has been elevated to god status, right?
The
Do you
creator.
think that a Bella POV would diminish her perspective in the eyes of her lore, her fandomness, her?
We're probably better left wanting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I think so
You're
too.
right.
I think
Too bad I'm gonna write it.
Bella is better left to the imagination of the collective fandom than the service of getting up perspective, because we get a little bit of her
Okay. Yep.
perspective. Yeah, further on,
All right.
later on.
We did 3 favorite characters up to this point. So now how about the 3 characters up to this point you most love to hate? You're like, "Bleh." Oh, look, the tongue did get there. You would. Because the drink's gone and it's all on the tongue now. Okay. So, let's see. Let's go with Mel this time. We haven't done you first yet. So it's your turn. Which ones would you say, yeah, at this point, these are the 3 I most enjoyed disliking with prejudice?
Okay, so if I put myself in the perspective of the Shadow Rising Mel in 20 whatever, Faiel, 100%. Fail manipulates like our most lovable, adorable, favorite, like innocent humanoid being into using his innocence against someone for the perspective of like kind of like abusing a love interest. So her for sure.
Okay.
Who else? How many other people? Okay, so I think
two more.
I need two more. Okay. Clearly Elida. Clearly her. Right? She swoops in.
I'm glad you said her. Yep.
She swoops in. She inexplicably like sidelines our Amerlin Seat, who we've admired so much but don't really know all that much about. For sure her. And then Celine, right? She walks in, she complicates things, she confuses the Dragon Reborn, she makes it so he questions like where he is, she manipulates him into thinking that he has powers he doesn't have. Those are my three. So Elida, Celine, and Fayo. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll go next. My three.
I didn't have to go second.
I'm going to break the pattern before we no longer have time, because the Wheel of Time is all about breaking the pattern. Okay. So,
Spoilers.
I definitely will double down on Elida. She was one. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Then, of course, we've got now in this book Couladin. I hate Couladin. Couladin's a punk.
Yep.
Man, don't like Couladin. The final one for me is Jarrett Bayar. I despise Jarrett Bayar. Man, from what we've met all the way in the Great Hunt, now all the way up to this point. Ugh. Okay. Jarrett Bayar. All right, Roof Mistress, keep it going around.
All right, so going to pair your child Bayar with Dane Bornhold, who was such a douchebag.
Yes.
And like completely has misinformation, doesn't listen to what people said. And I remember Bane and Chad earlier, you're like the White Cloaks just completely abandoning everyone. That's because of him.
Yes.
He's the leader and he can't get past this personal vendetta. And it drives me crazy. As somebody who was a former officer in the military, I just want to literally punch him in the face. Hate. My second one is Lord Luke. Also
Nice.
douchebag. So how he just like comes in and is like charming, and you can tell there's just something skeezy about him. And like just another one I just want to punch in the face.
A lot of punching.
Yeah.
Stabbing, but okay.
Yeah, and I would normally say Elida, but I feel like that is just low-hanging fruit because she is my favorite person in the series to hate. So I'm going to actually slide over and also say Savannah.
Ooh,
nice.
Yes.
She's deserving.
How manipulative she is. And there are just like, she is one of those people also like you could probably just name drop Savannah and everybody's like, oh.
She's the stereotypical power-hungry, power-grabbing individual. It's all there. All the worst traits.
Yeah, a terrible person. So, and you almost want to defend her and be like, good job going for the big game, girl. Like, you know what you want and you're going for it, but she just does it in the completely wrong way every single time. So ambition is good. Being ambitious and then ruthless is not good.
Like it.
Amen.
All right. Bane and Chiad, because I just want to mess with Zach more. So you're up next.
I think mine have already been said. I would go with Couladin for sure. What a poser. We got Lord Luke, just annoying and dumb. And then actually, I'm gonna go with Fane for my third one.
Nice.
Fane, I mean, we love Fane as a character, but I hate him in the sense that he's gross, grimy. He's
Yep.
behind. I can't remember what book this happens in, but let's just say he's behind some of the really bad things that happen in the Two Rivers, and you just don't mess with Perrin in the Two Rivers like that. So,
Yeah.
ooh, Fane.
Yeah. Robert Jordan does a great job of making us understand we are not supposed to like Pat and Fane.
Yes, for
And
sure.
it's visceral. We
Yes.
do not like this man.
Yes.
All right,
I mean,
Zach.
in
Oh.
his defense, like
don't
seriously,
you go
thank
Wait, are you
goodness.
defending Pat and Fane?
No,
Are you
no, no,
really?
Do it.
I'm defending Robert Jordan.
Oh, okay. No,
Because
we're
he
not
makes-
dissing him.
He makes a lot of characters gray, right? And thank God
There's
for
not
like
gray on Fane.
the relief
Yeah.
of Pat and Fane for all of us to be like, oh, I fucking hate that guy, right? Like we need at least one. We need at least,
But hey, spoiler alert.
especially in this book.
Maybe there's a redemption arc for Fane. Maybe.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, at least
I mean, he's
thus
already killed
far,
multiple Murdrell.
he's a sleaze and he's a jerk and he's absolutely abysmal. And there are other people who are quantifiably more connected to the Dark One, right? Who have revealed themselves to be who they are, who are more questionable, who are more gray area. But at least he gives us something where we're like, okay, we can center
We can hate
ourselves
this guy. Yeah.
on our hatred of this one dude. And thank goodness, because otherwise we would just be floundering in the abyss of grayness and confusion.
All right, Zach, we need your 3.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if one that the chat has thrown in will show up finally or not. Let's see.
So-
What's your 3?
The first is going to be hands down Lord Luke. Couldn't stand him.
Okay.
And all 3 of these for me are first read things. Not where I've come to, not where I'm at, but when I was reading it, who could I not stand? Couldn't stand Lord Luke. The next one was kind of a building from the previous books and just still didn't like this person, this character, Leandrin. We haven't mentioned her. But she's still such an awful person in a wonderful way. And the last of these isn't necessarily an awful person, but really made me uncomfortable in the ways in which they caused conflict. And it's going to get weird here because I think we mentioned it in, I've had too much of this to be sure. I think we mentioned it in highlight characters, Bearlane. The ways in which she causes strife and puts certain just kind of divisors, that's not a word, in place in certain places, especially in like Perrin and Fael's relationship, and starts to cause this trouble, really didn't sit well with me.
Okay.
But was
fair.
really interesting.
All right. Now there's one that certainly came up in chat that I didn't feel was top 3 yet. Spoiler light, stick around. You might agree with Knarfin. I have no idea if that's how you say that, but Galad could be headed there as that kind of category. And then there's one more that just made me laugh. To throw Senbui in with this bunch, as the top 3. I'm like, oh, come on, poor Senbui.
Fuck you, Senbui.
All right.
Fuck that guy.
All right, we are just about at the end here. I have one more Guess Who and then one last question for us all. So let me throw the Guess Who. I said we've been getting progressively harder, so this is potentially the toughest one of all. And I just have to hit the right button to show it to you. Be ready. Be quick. Here it comes. Now.
Trolloc.
Narg.
Narg! Yes! Just Trolloc. Come on. It's gotta be Narg.
Listen, all
Narg.
Trollocs that are not the bird Trolloc are just Trollocs.
How is that a trolley?
How is that a trolley? It's a headshot. Come on, can't you see it?
This is why Bane and Chad are the best scouts.
All right. Thank you for playing along. Now, the final question for us all to address here today. If you were a character in The Shadow Rising, which of the 3 primary story arcs would you want to be a part of? You would really prefer it. Adventures in the Threefold Land, Trials in Tanchico, or Trouble in the Two Rivers. Which of these 3 would you want to be? Zach, let's toss it to you first for a change.
I'm going to be really boring for my reasoning because I want to be an adventurous person. I really do. I like being spontaneous and doing these various different things. But at the same time, when it comes down to it, what do I really want? At the end of the day, when all hell is breaking loose, I want to go to sleep in my own bed. I want to be in the Two Rivers.
All right. All right. For me, it's definitely Trials in Tanchico. I hear the beaches are kick butt. You can get the best tans in Tanchico. Everybody knows this. This is where I'd want to spend my time. What can I say? All right. Roof Mistress Leah. Tough choice for you, I'm sure.
Well, what was the question? My cat decided to crash a whole bunch of things in the kitchen, and because I had to go yell at him.
All right.
Adorable. It's a good thing he's really cute. Otherwise, he'd be dead.
Which of the story arcs would you most want to be a character in if you were in this story? Adventures in the Threefold Land.
So, like, I know I was joking with you guys earlier about, like, if that's a softball because you know what we're all going to say. But I really would love to spend more time in the waste and learn a lot more about what it's like to live in a hold and be in a hold and what ideal daily life looks like. You get this one little snippet in this book, and the most that you experience the Aiel culture is through the warriors, and you just don't see what daily Aiel life really is like. And you get
it's fair
book, and I just want to know more because they seem like such cool people. Learning more about the whole culture and history, that would be wonderful.
Bane and Chiad, you got those same 3 choices. Which one would you want?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm also going to pick Threefold Land. You know, as fun as all the other plot lines are, Threefold Land is where the main action is happening. So I want to be like where the Dragon Reborn is when he becomes the Karakarn. I want to be where Matt is when he's going through this transformation. Moraine and Egwene are there. Like that's where I would want to be. Plus also Aiel.
Fair enough. Hard to argue. Mel, are you going to bring something different, or are you right there with your sisters?
Listen, I feel like Robert Jordan acknowledged the superiority of the Aiel culture in this book. He established that he desperately wanted to dive deep into the culture of the Aiel, and he wanted to put that out on the page in a more elaborate and more completely, utterly wholesome. He wanted to make this culture clear for the people who read this book. And I feel like if one was going to pick a culture to identify with that was well established and well delineated and well defined, and their history was laid out in front of you via the glass columns, like the Aiel, there's no way to approach this book in any way other than being like, this culture is complex and nuanced and full of history, and full of idiosyncrasies and full of conflict than putting yourself in the foot of a person who wears cadence sword all the time. I'm sorry to be predictable, but you did invite Threefold Talk.
You did.
You did invite us to join you on this show.
Indeed.
That you knew what we were about. There's a reason that Robert Jordan dove deep, and of all of the cultures that were established in the Wheel of Time, in the Westlands, in the Asa on Mier, in the Blight, in Shara, the one homogenous culture that was most well defined was the ideal. And we cannot separate ourselves from that because the conflict is too juicy. The conflict is too complicated. The conflict is too challenging, and everything that was derived from that weighs so heavily on the forward progression of the story of these books and the main plot line. So, of course, I can't say anything other. I'm so sorry to disappoint you.
Now,
why did you invite us
I'm not
here?
sorry.
I would not say that you disappointed. No, I would not.
I do think it's interesting that you gave us those three options and didn't let us choose to be in the White Tower as it rebelled. I mean, why wouldn't I have wanted to be in the most tumultuous and terrifying place?
It's so important, and yet it almost seems like a tertiary plot in this book.
Yeah.
But it's critical. You are absolutely right. Now, speaking of critical, as we wrap up the episode here, I have to respond to chat a little bit. They've given me some crap that the Trolloc could not have been Narg because Narg was dead. Okay, fair point. You got to go with the humor, but because I understand the humor of our fans and such, I'm also delivering on what should have been, apparently, our final Guess Who. So get ready. Who's missing?
Yes!
Maureen.
But also Butt Rock.
Butt Rock.
Butt Rock.
Yeah, we're not that kind of podcast, so I couldn't show the Butt Rock. Sorry.
What is wrong with this
podcast?
The fact that it feels like you had that ready, surprise, like, why?
Kudos to you for putting that together so fast.
Thank you.
Much ramen rattle.
Well, again, thank you so much for being with us for this episode. This has been a lot of fun. Just talking about stuff we absolutely love. You guys are great to hang out with, for sure. I know the people who've been with us in the live have enjoyed just getting more of the threefold talk and fun stuff. So thank you for being here. I don't think we've seen much stabbing, which means I think Zach and I weren't too atrocious. We were okay then. Thank you. There it is.
Neither of us picked up the swords in the background. We're good.
It's
just because
we forgot to stab.
Also, you are wetlanders, so you're not worthy of the stabs that we would normally provide.
Clueless wetlanders.
I'd be offended, but it's true.
She just dropped the dagger.
There it is. There it is. Remind everybody who's going to watch this over time and years where they can find more of you if they want to check you guys out. It's not hard to find, but tell them where.
So we're on the Malkier Talk YouTube is when we do where our backlog of shows are. We're live Thursday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern. So you can pop into that YouTube channel. We also are on the Malkier Talks Discord channel.
There you go.
We've kind of taken over.
Yeah.
Because you're fun.
And
people love interacting. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Zach, anything else before I run our outro here then?
I've got nothing.
Okay. Then I think I'll just let the credits run. Because, I took the time to build credits, so we have to show them every time. Zach says eventually he's going to write original music for this.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I'm waiting.
Figure out episode 200. We've only got like 48 more
You've
to
got,
go.
yeah, no, 46 then. 45. This is 154. Coming. Thanks for being with us. All of you who are with us live, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Those of you watching later, thanks so much. Find us. We'd love to interact with you more. Talk to you next time.